With the 2023 season of the F1 season coming to an end, I wanted to look back at some of the moments from not just the F1 season, but also F2 and F3. So how this is going to work is basically just like in my NASCAR video. I'll be first doing F3, F2, then F1 at the very end. So let's first start off with F3. For F3, let's first talk about Spain, a very emotional win for Joseph Maria Marti, or Pepe Marti for short. I'm pretty sure this was his third win or second win of the season, considering that he won at Bahrain as well. It was also the start of the rise of the young Spaniard as well. He won the feature race in front of his home crowd, and it definitely birthed a new generation of him, I'll be honest. He's now a part of the Red Bull family, which is great. I'm pretty sure he's still under the management of Fernando Alonso, which is still pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure he's also now has an F2 seat, I think with Campos, correct me if I'm wrong. So, I think he's definitely F1 talent. I think he definitely deserves to be in F1. He's a phenomenal driver, and I do wish him the very best in the 2024 F2 season. Pretty sure he's teamed up with Isaac Hadjar, so at least that'll be a good sign. Let's now talk about the Belgian weekend, and it was a very emotional weekend, especially because of the loss of Dilano Van Toff, and Frank Colapinto, who won the race, dedicated his win to him. That was a very emotional day, I'll be honest. He's still grappling on. I'm pretty sure he died when he was 20 years old. And it definitely questioned the safety of the track of Spa, considering that it was rain and you couldn't really see anything during a rainstorm. So definitely considered the safety of that track. Obviously, I'm pretty sure before the F3 weekend, they made some changes, things like the runoff and stuff. So maybe it could have been more safer, but either way, it was a horrible day on July 1st. I'm pretty sure I did obviously dedicate the beginning of the video to him, but it was still a very emotional day, and I'm glad as well that Colapinto obviously dedicated that win to him as well. Let's continue with the Belgian weekend, and a much more happier note as Taylor Barnard, the British driver, picked up Genzo's first ever win since 2019. I don't even think it's crazy to me that it definitely was the biggest upset in F3 or even F2, really. Obviously, as we talk about another F2 surprise victory. This one was more surprising, considering that there was basically two different strategies. Pretty sure there was one set of drivers who were on the wet tires and the other one on the dry tires. No one really knew what the conditions would be. So it kind of was like a multi-class race of one pack was doing the dry tires and one pack was doing the wet tires. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember, but I think the dry tires was actually the better option. I cannot remember, I'll be honest, it's been so long since that happened. But either way, Barnard, he got his first win for Genzo. I'm pretty sure he picked up another win as well. And I do hope that Barnard at least is picked up by a driver academy, because I can see a lot of talent in the young British driver. Could he maybe be an Aston Martin, McLaren? Not really too sure. Maybe he already is one by the time you see this video. I have no idea, but I do wish that Barnard will get picked up by an F1 team as a young driver, because he absolutely deserves it after that win. Let's now talk about Gabriel Bortoleto. He absolutely dominated the F3 season in 2023. And considering now that he's now in F2, I'm pretty sure he's now with Virtuosi Racing. He's also now part of the McLaren Young Driver Program. Absolutely deserves it. The young Brazilian shocked everyone just how dominant he was. I'm pretty sure I remember he was once part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. I'm pretty sure. Absolutely destroyed the entire field, and he won the championship during qualifying. I'm pretty sure he started like 7th place, and none of the championship contenders could actually could win it. Well, I should say could get pole, or maybe he got pole. I can't really remember, but either way, he won the championship in qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. So it really shows just how dominant he was throughout the season. I do wish him the very best at F2. Could he maybe recreate it? I'm not really too sure. The F2 field for next year is looking pretty stacked. We just have to wait and see what happens. But Massive congratulations to Gabriel Letter. Even though he won the championship back in September, still massive congratulations to him. He absolutely deserved that victory. Let's now move now to F2 and first start off with Oliver Bearman. His performance at Baku was impressive. Absolutely dominated the whole weekend. I'm pretty sure started on pole for the feature race. Also, obviously started 10th place in the sprint race, but he worked his way from 10th on the grid to first. And won the sprint race and then dominated the feature race as well. It was absolutely pure dominance from Oliver Bearman. Absolutely just amazing performance from him. I'm not really too sure if he's going to be back at F2. I think he might be with Pram. I'm not really too sure. Maybe some rumblings, maybe, but I don't really know. But he did a phenomenal job. Even though Abu Dhabi wasn't really the greatest way to end his F2 campaign, and even though he did come second place to Victor Martins in rookie class, we'll say, he still did a phenomenal job. And Baku was definitely something that that he's probably going to look over at the end of this year in 2023. So we'll see how he goes next year for F2, but could he maybe be a championship contender? Not really too sure. We just have to wait and see. Let's now talk about the Dutch Grand Prix. Obviously, the big one obviously of Frederick Vesey and Theo Porcher. I appreciate both of them crashed. Especially Vesey, his tire went to Narnia. But the big one I want to talk about is Clarence Novalak, a Trident driver who surprised everyone with a win. This was obviously the other surprising victory that happened this year. Obviously, F1, it was just Verstappen, Perez, but obviously we'll get into F1 later. But Novalak's win was very surprising. Trident is not really a team that you would really consider them as winning team. They obviously won in F3, but you don't really consider them to be champions or even championship contenders, I should say, in F2. It'll be like RT, Prema, Carlin, or Virtuosi Racing, really, but Trident, they're mainly at the very end. I should say at the very back of the field. But with Novalak's surprising victory, that actually made PHM Racing the only team to not win a single race in the 2023 season. So that's at least a pretty interesting stat. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses for Novalak, as he actually got replaced for the Abu Dhabi weekend by poor Aaron. So what does Novalak's future looks like? I have no idea. Could he maybe be back in F2? Could he maybe go to another series? I'm not really too sure, but Novalak's future is a bit up in the air right now. Let's talk about the two championship contenders, that being Frederick Vesey versus Theo Porcher. What a battle they had throughout the season. I remember at one point it was like Ralph Boschung versus Theo Porcher, incredibly cursed, I know, at the very beginning of the season. And then Frederick Vesey, he slowly started to develop himself and really became a title contender. Both of them were teammates last year in 2022, and with the former teammates battling out again, it was great actually to watch. And there was a lot of drama, especially in Belgium, for example. Pretty sure when Vesey couldn't start the race because I'm pretty sure he crashed out. And I think the crazy Dutch Grand Prix weekend, I'm pretty sure both of them retired at some point. It was definitely something. And to top it all off as well, that Abu Dhabi race in the feature race was very, very intense. And with Vesey obviously as well getting the win on the sprint race, it just wasn't enough in the feature race, as Theo Porcher took the championship, pretty sure by 11 points. So it was a very, very close F2 campaign title between those two drivers. I don't think any of them are going to be returning next year. Porcher definitely can't return next year, so we'll see what happens to Porcher next year. But Frederick Vesey, not really too sure what's going to be happening to him. Might be maybe a Mercedes reserve driver, or could he maybe be in the hunt, or maybe taking Logan Sargent's seat at Williams? That's what some rumblings, some rumors could be happening with Vesey, maybe getting an F1 seat before Theo Porcher for some stupid reason. But I don't really know. My guess is probably Porcher might be just a reserve driver, might be doing a Felipe Drugovich or even Oscar Piastri, where because there's no seats available, the only thing that the team can only do to Porcher is to give him a reserve drive spot, which obviously I don't think Porcher really wants to do. But at least if Zhou or Bottas, if they underperform, next season, 2024. Could we maybe see Teo Porcher maybe in that seat? I'm not really too sure, but massive congratulations to Teo Porcher. Absolutely deserves the championship. And to Patrick Vesey as well, for basically putting up an amazing fight against Porcher as well. Porcher, he's always been the bridesmaid. He's been always placing second place, and this in 2023, he has finally pulled it off in first place. Let's now moving now to F1. And first start off with Red Bull and Verstappen's absolute dominance. Obviously this season, yes, was incredibly boring just because of the dominance between Red Bull and Verstappen, but you cannot take away of how impressive that was. The last time basically a team has won that many races was, I'm pretty sure, McLaren back in 1988 with Senna and Prost, where they won, I think it was like 15 out of 16 races, and the only race that they didn't win was won by Ferrari, and obviously we get to that later. But it was just pure dominance. I'm pretty sure, when did they win the championship? Like, I can't remember. It was so early on that he just won the championship. It just didn't even matter. So I mean, it was just pure dominance from Verstappen, and we'll see what happens to Red Bull and Verstappen next year in 2024. I know Verstappen has said many times that he will retire if F1 continues to be an entertainment, not really an actual sporting event. So we could actually maybe see Verstappen retire pretty early on and go to something else, maybe like esports or something. But could Red Bull and Verstappen continue this dominance to next year in 2024? Is looking pretty likely, but we just have to wait and see, really. It wasn't all sunshine and roses though in Red Bull, as Sergio Perez struggled massively. At the very beginning of the season, he was looking like a title contender. I mean, he won at Saudi Arabia, he won at Baku, he was an absolute god, and in street circuits. But then, as we get as we get later onto the season, he started to struggle, especially in his qualifying trim, where I can't even remember. Like, I think he missed out on Q3 like 12 times or something, like the last couple races. It was something that you shouldn't be doing in a Red Bull that has been that dominant. I mean, imagine if another driver like Liam Lawson, for example, was in that car, or even Ruben to be Daniel Ricciardo to be joining Red Bull next season. What could they do in that car? Considering that, I'm pretty sure, obviously we'll get to Ricciardo later, but considering that Ricciardo, he tested that car and he was blitzing fast. I mean, what could another driver could have easily done 10 times better than Perez, and with the rumors of him possibly maybe being replaced by Ricciardo or another driver for Red Bull next season, not really looking too good for Perez. But luckily he still finished second place. He still has a contract, but Red Bull, knowing them, and Helmut Marko especially, he could easily be on the chopping board. Let's now talk about AlphaTauri, as there was musical chairs going all over the place. Obviously, at the start of the season, it was Yuki Tsunoda and Nick De Vries. Obviously, De Vries, he put up a wonderful performance in Monza, finished 9th place in a Williams for Alexander Albon, who I'm pretty sure was in hospital back then, and I mean, took home 2 points. I mean, it was definitely an amazing debut from De Vries. And considering that he was also a Formula E champion and a Mercedes reserve driver, I mean, he was a very, very good driver. I mean, absolutely deserves an F1 seat. Until we get into 2023 in Bahrain, he struggled massively. Like, he just struggled. He couldn't really pick up the pace, really. He just crashed well, he didn't crash, he just had very poor performance, poor qualifying position, was always outclassed by Tsunoda as well, and that led him to be sacked by AlphaTauri, mainly Helmut Marko, I should say, for Daniel Ricciardo. And Ricciardo was back. Obviously, this was mainly like an evaluation test just to see if Ricciardo could actually get that seat at Red Bull. But I mean, it's looking pretty. I'm not really too sure. I mean, Ricciardo, he did put out some good performances. He was definitely better than De Vries. However, when we get into the Dutch Grand Prix, his hand got injured. So Liam Lawson came in for, I'm pretty sure, 6 races, and he performed very, very well in Singapore. He performed pretty decently, in my opinion, in the other races. So, I mean, he was actually pretty good. He was alright. So, But sadly though, Lawson, I'm not really too sure what his future is looking like. Could he maybe continue to be in Super Formula? Could he maybe move on and maybe still be in Red Bull, but maybe as a reserve driver? I'm not really too sure, I'll be honest. But it's looking more likely that Lawson will probably not be in F1 for a couple of years, sadly. Maybe what happens maybe in AlphaTauri, I'm not really too sure. Or Red Bull race, or whatever the hell was going to be next season. I can't even remember, like Bull's race or something. But, I mean, yeah, it was just musical chairs for AlphaTauri. No one really wanted to stay there for very long. No one really wanted to be Tsunoda's teammate, but luckily next year it's going to be Tsunoda and Ricciardo, maybe, possibly. So, luckily that's going to be, hopefully it's going to be staying the same until the end of 2024. Let's now move over now to another team, McLaren. They struggled massively at the beginning of the 2023 season. Then all of a sudden, they just kept rising and rising. And all of a sudden, they became like the second fastest car at some point of the season. I have no idea what the hell McLaren did or what they gave to their employees, but it worked. I mean, Piastri, he got his first quote-unquote first win in F1. Obviously, that was in a sprint race like Qatar. And both of them were obviously getting podiums after podiums after podiums after podiums and having great finishes and stuff. And it was a massive rise for that team. I mean, it's still quite funny that Piastri got a win before Norris, which I find very funny. But either way, I mean, it was an amazing rise for McLaren. I mean, I just don't know how the hell they did it. I generally don't. I mean, it was just, I mean, because I think at some point they were like the slowest car in the field in 2023, and then all of a sudden they just kept rising. I'm like, how the hell are they doing this? So could McLaren keep that rise until next year in 2024? Not really too sure, but we just have to wait and see on that. Let's now talk about some races. Let's first talk about the chaotic Australian Grand Prix, not just in F1, but in F2 and F3 as well. It was the first time that F2 and F3 will be travel down under to Albert Park in Melbourne, and it was just an absolute shit show. It was just, I mean, it was great racing, very chaotic racing, we'll say, especially for F1 standards, where pretty sure there was like 58 red flags, and obviously you can have a look at the card on the top left or top right, I should say, of just my reactions to the F1 race. You can even have a look as well on the F2, F3 feature race, or even if you want to, the Supercars race as well. So it was definitely a weekend to remember, probably mainly to forget, considering of how chaotic it was and how crap it was. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time for everyone to look back on. Let's talk about the only race where Red Bull did not win, that being the Singapore Grand Prix. It was actually a very, very good race. Really enjoyed it. Very entertaining as well. Carlos Sainz, obviously, he got the victory. Pretty sure Verstappen finished like P5 or something. There weren't like a lot of crashes, obviously. I mean, there was a lot of passing, plenty of them, and this is also where Liam Lawson also grabbed his first points of the season. Pretty sure he got 8th place, which is very, very respectable, and it was just a very good race for everyone, really. I mean, just like I said, the only time where Red Bull didn't win, which is why I decided to place this up here, which kind of just shows of how dominant that team was. If they only lost in Singapore, which is historically their best track in I guess in the calendar, if they lost on their best track historically, that's really saying something of their dominance. So massive congratulations to Carlos Sainz and Ferrari, be the only driver in team to not be a Dutch and not be Austrian. And I think to round off this video, the 50 moments from the 2023 F1, F2 and F3 seasons, let's talk about Las Vegas, the good and the bad of the Las Vegas weekend. Obviously the bad, that being the locals being a bit ticked off, and the pay cuts, well, not like pay cuts, I should say, like the unnecessary charge of fees from, I'm pretty sure there was like a mall that charged like $100, $150 of parking there, And I think that like there's another one like I can't remember, like maybe like a villa, I can't really remember right now, an apartment I should say, that charged like $10 like an hour or something to be parked there, just because of the Las Vegas weekend as well. I mean, the big one as well was the drain cover that Carlos Sainz ran over, obviously to end the session pretty early in FP1, which was like 8 minutes, I'm pretty sure. It was definitely not a good look for F1, but then as we get closer and closer to the race, the qualifying session was pretty clean. Obviously, we had that very awkward timing with Perez, and I can't remember who was announcing all the drivers on the drivers parade. And I'm pretty sure like 3 drivers' like cars like broke down as well during the drivers parade. Pretty sure like Piastri, Perez, and Hamilton. I'm pretty sure. However, the racing though, that was maybe the best racing of the season. It was very, very good. A lot of passing opportunities. It was incredibly wide, so yeah, a lot of passing opportunities. The atmosphere was amazing. It was booming. I like what they did as well with the sphere. That was nice. Pretty sure one time they showed like SpongeBob SquarePants at some point. I'm pretty sure it was a very, very good race. I mean, even though like the cooldown room, even though it was just a limousine room, we'll say, it was kind of awkward, and some interesting memes also came out from that as well. But all in all, it was a very, very good race. I mean, it just had it all. I mean, obviously, it had like Norris's horrifying crash. It had a great battle for second place between Leclerc and Perez. Some strategy as well. I think like Piastri also came from like 12th to like 10th just to get the fastest lap of the race, among other stuff. It was a very, very good race, and definitely will be looked back on actually quite fondly. I'll be honest, from fans, from drivers, even Verstappen also first said that he was not a fan of this race, even with the stupid voucher thing that F1 gave out to all the fans who were kicked out during FP2. And he actually at the very end basically said, I'm pretty excited to come back here. So yeah, I mean, if it changed Verstappen's mind that quickly, I guess everyone thought it was a good race and a good weekend. Maybe except for the drain cover and all that other drama. But the race was very, very, very good. So that is really about it from me. Comment down below of what I missed out on from the moments from F1, F2, and F3. I know 15 is not really like a lot, but it is what I could kind of just put into this to this amount for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Catch you guys on next time in the next one. Goodbye.